Shut up and sit down.
For the racers, it's one of their favourite circuits on the calendar all year in the ChampCar iRacing series. It's round 8 from VIR. Delighted to have your company on our live coverage with HJBC of this amazing championship. David Haynes with Devin Peters and Michael Derby taking a look at the conditions, at the circuit, and at the 60-minute race ahead of us. Devin, it's a season-long championship. Winds its way across some of North America's greatest road courses. We're here now at VIR.
Oh, and it's the home of 24 hours of the real series and 1 hour of intense racing here tonight. I got to think in the virtual series, classic cars, 435 VPI points in these NC Miatas. So a lot like the real thing could go around here. Maybe a few seconds faster than your car, depending on how hot your driver is and how good your aero package is. But I'm really looking forward to it. I love this track.
I think also depending on the tyres that you've got on, they're pretty quick ones on iRacing for this NC Miata. Officially the 2010 MX-5 Cup car. Qualifying underway right now on circuit before we get to that 1 hour race. And it's all to play for as far as qualifying, as far as racing, as far as points are concerned. The ChampCar iRacing series this year, some great prizes on offer. The championship winner is getting $1,500 worth of ChampCar bucks to get themselves into a real seat in a real car in the ChampCar Endurance Series next year. Well, at the moment, Joshua Soto is sitting top of the points table. From Davis Trask, Tim Wire, Kyle Robertson, Nick Love, Sean Saputra, Mark Kruger, Alex Albert, Ian Giebler, and Mark McCormick, the defending champion, as the top 10. If I could notice maybe a little bit of a trend, I think having the number 3 in your name seems to help, at least at the moment. But we have had over 90 drivers take part so far this year. Maybe a couple more, because I see a couple fresh names on the circuit tonight.
Yeah, it's been great to see all these new faces out, bring a lot of variety and a lot of talent to the series. We've had some really stacked fields out there, and I'm looking forward to seeing another one get going today.
We've had some really, really quick sim races like Jordan Johnson, like Joshua Soto. Have also got a great representation of our ChampCar teams out there. A couple drivers from Team Salem, a couple drivers from Love Racing, a couple of those Heartland Autosport guys out there as well. So you'll see a couple of familiar cars on track too as well tonight.
Yeah. But you can see as we get down into the bottom end there of the points, all the different people that have participated this year, and I'm looking forward to a quality race here today. We got 24 on the grid for us, and about 2 more minutes of qualifying left, and we're seeing some of the usual suspects hanging around at the top.
Yeah, top of your screen right now is scrolling the qualifying order. If you want to get down in the weeds of all of the details across the race tonight, hjbc.live has all of the live timing for everything we broadcast, including ChampCar iRacing series and its special endurance events. Head to forum.champcar.org for the full schedule, by the way, because there is never a bad time to jump into this championship. Every 4 races, the drivers go into the draw to win some champ bucks that can help them get closer to real wheel-to-wheel endurance racing at some of America's best road racing tracks in the ChampCar Endurance Series. So at the end of tonight, we'll have a fresh list of drivers who are going to go into the draw. I think it might have been Kyle Robertson who won after the first 4 races, and he was delighted to hear about that. So if you want to join us for the final 4 in the calendar year, you're on an equal footing with everyone as far as maybe winning some valuable prizes there. And we have one of the 4-hour team endurance races just a couple of weeks away with the TCRs at Mid-Ohio. So forum.champcar.org to join us on iRacing if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, and if you're looking to get your toes wet, go from the virtual world to the real world, there's no better place to do it than on the sim. Get to know some of the folks that you'll see at the real racetrack, and who knows, maybe they'll show up one day with a blue mohawk and drive your car.
It's not a mohawk, Devin. Joshua Soto improves his time as he crosses the line to really stamp his authority to this point on the qualifying session. 2:09.9, and he's done. Joshua Soto thinks that might get him on pole. Checkered flag is about to come out. Everyone will complete their laps. You can see a couple of these Team Salen's cars out here getting a bit of a slipstream as well. Open qualifying, all of our drivers sharing the track together. Well, those drivers are done, and they're off to explore the beautiful scenery of Virginia. Here's Nick Love with one of his Love Racing teammates in front as well. Love's fourth in the qualifying at the minute. Is he being helped with a toe on the back straight, or is he going to be impeded through these famous final complex of corners here at VIR, the roller coaster and the hog pen?
Yeah, it's hard to say what's happening here. Of course, the 0x, a bump draft will invalidate your qualifying time. Never noticed the cars were on different colored wheels, but I guess when you're the boss, you get the fancy wheels, right?
Yeah, because that's one of the things that's actually set in the iRacing paint shop, not by just the livery that you load in.
That's kind of neat looking. And now we got Jordan Butler on the screen. Tico is around for a final lap.
You talk about all the people that you might meet here on iRacing that are out at the tracks. Jordan Butler's one of them. Met him at Sebring last year. Simon Foweather. We're like a couple degrees of Kevin Bacon here because I've never chatted to the gentleman, but I've sat in the number 890 iRacing BMW that his livery is a tribute to. We've had a couple of co-drivers in common before, but never driven together. He's one of the last drivers out on track at the moment, is Simon Foweather. He's sixth at the moment, and he's had a relatively clean track, I would imagine, right at the end here.
Yeah, it's not quite enough to bump him up the timing screen today, but a solid effort nonetheless there at the end. But it is worth saying that maybe he was hoping the weather would get a little bit better here at the end, and hasn't quite worked out for him. Let's check out that grid.
Yeah. There's the checkered flag on qualifying with only a minute left in the session. Every driver has parked it or completed their flying lap. So we can lock in a 24-car grid for the 1 hour race coming up, round 8 of the ChampCar iRacing series. You might have to wait out that clock before we can bring you the grid on screen. And you can see Barney, he's waving that checkered flag, and he's developed some skills lately. Used to beat it like he was trying to get a, spider off the back of his shirt. Now he's got a little more finesse and technique with the checkered flag in hand, and it's not too far till they need to pick up the green flag for the 1 hour race.
My biggest excitement is seeing the marshalling stations around all the tracks with 3D animated people standing in the corners. I can't wait till they bring real flaggers to the sim, because I think it's one of the final sort of gaps, that and rain, that make a big difference between what you do on the real track versus in the sim.
So this is the grid then. As we said, Joshua Soto on pole position, 2 minutes 9.9. Yeah, that is pretty quick. That's not bad at all. But he's sharing the front row with Andrew Lanning. Behind them, Team Salen's Tim Wire and Love Racing's Nick Love. Ian Giebler and Simon Foweather are 5th and 6th. John McManus and Justin Hall are 7th and 8th. And that top 10 completed by Jordan Butler and Michael Coates. Will Nonamaker in 11th. I'm pretty sure we get corrected, we get told, and that's if we're to believe Bill Salen. Will be Will Nonamaker there alongside Heath Threm, Dakota Knapp and Alex Harrison 13th and 14th. Colin Lounsbury and Orlando Harrell are there behind them. We have Mark Kruger and Alan Wells, Davis Trask and Charles Kowalczyk, Bowie Suin, Ben Rose, David Palermo, and Bill Salen there in 24th. Hey, we get an interesting formation lap here, Devin.
One of the only ones on iRacing that takes you from the pit lane. Of course, that's how you do it in the real world. So it will be it'll be an interesting pit lap. It'll also be a long pit lap, but we'll get to see a tour of this beautiful facility out here. And I was watching the documentary about VIR today, and learning all sorts of fun little tidbits about the track. I always thought it was a little bit confusing, for example, that NASCAR up here was kind of a flat left-hander. I learned that the reason they call it NASCAR isn't because the NASCAR drivers were good at that corner. It's because they got stuck in the swamp on the outside of it all the time.
That's just a great example, for life. You'll either be remembered by history for the great, great things you did, or the monumental failure that you were a part of. And either way, is it better than just being forgotten? Who is to say? This is one of the exciting parts of the racetrack here. The lower S's, very much single file through here often before you get to the upper S's that seem flat out in these cars, but there are many conditions and many race cars where it's just not flat out, and you've got the elevation changing. You just got to pick your line right as well.
Yeah, and into the upper S is the most, one of the most committed parts of the track. And one of my rude wake-up calls the first time I was out on track here was getting passed by E30s into the upper S's. That'll wake you up. You're not expecting it to be too wide, but it definitely is if someone wants to make it. Coming over the south bend here, and one of the more committed corners on the track. This NC Miata makes it feel extra committed because it's got one of those okay setups that you'll get used to driving in the real world. It's not bang on, makes it real tough. And then of course the famed oak tree corner minus RIP the oak tree.
But Devin, you know what the fixed setup does have? 7 gallons of racing fuel to start them off, and those amongst you will imagine and realize that is not going to get them to the end of a 60-minute race here at VIR. We are going to have a pit stop for everyone, and there's always some level of strategy, of point of difference driver to driver amongst that, whether they can pit early, whether they try to run that 7 gallons all the way out and pit late, and exactly what or how many tires they end up taking.
Yeah. Pit strategy always part of the factor in the real world series, so of course we want to make it a factor here as well. And we see that iRacing generic pace car come by.
It's Kirkland brand sedan. You get a great deal on them at Costco when you buy 10 at a time. Not far from getting underway. Let us know in the YouTube chat who your favorite driver is, what teammates you're cheering for, and if you want to keep up with them, remember to go to hjbc.live for all of the live timing. It'll have the pit stop times, it'll have the positions, it'll have it all. 60 minutes on the clock. The pace car pulls in. Your pole sitter Joshua Soto leads a field of NC Miata 2010 MX-5 Cup cars towards the green flag for the ChampCar iRacing series at VIR. They are packed up tight. They are packed up close side by side. Barney waves the green flag on cold tires. We race down towards turn number 1. The field spreads out, but they are so tightly packed heading into turn 1. Your pole sitter just wants to hold the inside line for the first hairpin. 3 wide, 4 wide, little bit of nudge, little bit of feeling. And who's that? Andrew Lanning, mayhaps. He gets sent sideways. He gets turned straight around, but a touch of grass from Nick Love, and he spears off the racing circuit.
Oh, and that's going to be a heartbreaker for Nick Love. He's had so many close races, but we got a few more on the inside too rejoining here. What am I seeing? That's, that's Simon Foweather, Charles Kowalczyk's collecting Alan Wells. It's a bit of a mess here. Car on 2 wheels.
Justin Hall riding the bonnet, the bump, the hood even of Simon Foweather there. So much happening. It's thrown me for an absolute loop. It's thrown some of those drivers around, but it looks like everyone bar David Palermo has managed to continue. These cars are built sturdy out of the strongest material known to man, iRacing old damage model. But Joshua Soto from the pole position maintains his race lead 6/10 over Tim Wire, coming around the backside of the circuit where there used to be the oak tree there, still called Oak Tree Turn. But the slipstream is going to be so strong in these cars from Oak Tree all the way up the hill and towards the famous roller coaster.
Update from the back of the field. I'm seeing Andrew Lanning. I'm seeing Alan Wells driving, crabbing cars back to the pits. I don't think either one's escaped without damaging their suspension. So they're going to have to pay the price of either a very slow lap or a very long tow to get all the way back.
Justin Hall went for that ride sideways on two tyres, but his car seems to be in slightly better shape than some others. He's picking them off and getting right back into this race. A lap one winner, and there's been a couple of them. Michael Coates from 10th, 6 positions gained up into 4th. He loves to race a Mazda. We know that here on HJBC. Jordan Butler also with a decent start, and Heath Threm from, I think that's 12th on the grid, up into 6th as well. So some big movers inside of the top 10. First lap completed. Joshua Soto maintains his race lead, and there's one other driver who's managed to go with him, Tim Wire, hoping to stay in that slipstream.
Yeah, if you can dodge the chaos, right behind Josh Soto isn't a bad place to be, because he's shown himself to be plenty quick, both in qualifying and throughout this season, where he's racked up, 3 wins already this year? More?
A couple, and he leads the points championship. We saw that for sure. Another great feature of this championship, of this car, they start with 7 gallons in the tank, but they don't start with a small tank. Those drivers on the pit lane right now, Andrew Lanning, Simon Foweather, John McManus, will be able to add some fuel from here and still get to the end of this race on a one stop. Now, if it turns out that the tire wear is a bit high and taking new left side tires at the halfway point of the race is the best strategy, they might get left behind a little bit on that, but it will not force them into a 2-stop strategy that would definitely count them out of this compared to the race leaders and those that had a bit of a tidier one. Looking at what's happening now, though, we've still got just a car length or so in the race lead, but behind Will Nonamaker in 7th, it's looking super busy. It's so busy as we cut there. Who's that off the circuit? Is it Bowie Suen or Mark Kruger?
Mark Kruger's off the track, and it looked like he got a little bit of a scare when things started to check up ahead of him, missed his turn in, and once you get a tire out on the dirt, it's really easy to go for a ride out at South Bend.
You want to talk about roller coaster being an intimidating corner around this circuit, but then you think of all the others, like trying to keep it pinned flat out up the S's, that South Bend corner there where the track just drops away from you, breaking into the Oak Tree where the walls are just about as close as they are anywhere else. It has been a chaotic opening couple of laps here. Alex Harrison has used that slipstream to get around the Will Nonamaker train and up into 7th.
Yeah, and you can see that ugly bumper from the old damage model on Will Nonamaker's car, and it's definitely going to be having an impact on the straight line speed of these little Miatas. There's not a whole lot of horsepower pushing them down the track.
No, the ND Miata got a little bit of a horsepower bump over this, and then the ND2 Miata got a horsepower bump over that, and this still remains the heaviest generation of Mazda Miata. Grand scheme of things, still a light sports car, but it's that sort of around about 2,200 pounds mark where anything over that, oh, that's a heavy Mazda.
Yeah, absolutely. And you feel the weight through all these slow corners that are characteristic of the first half of the lap at VIR. That's for sure.
That weight in the nose, the weight up the front as well, that makes this a little pushier than some of the other generations of car. No problem for these guys, though, picking their line and keeping it flat out up through those climbing S's. Tim Wire Struggling to get the nose to turn in a little bit wide of some of the corners in places here, but still following with race leader Joshua Soto. They've put 3 seconds over Ian Giebler in third, but he's got a little bit of clean air all to himself, 3 seconds ahead of Jordan Butler.
Tim got a hell of a run off of Oak Tree that time, and I was just going to make a comment about how he was doing it by my eye a little bit better than Josh Soto, and it showed up. Josh Soto, meanwhile, is in the chat asking for a bump draft, so we'll see if there's collaboration here or if Tim decides he wants to go for a race.
It's very, very close to looking like Spec Miata Racing at points here at the moment, but I assure you, it is ChampCar iRacing Series. This is a 60-minute race, and there's a wave of pit stops still to come later on. Anyone that's picking your attention that you're particularly impressed with at this point?
I'm watching Colin Lounsbury and Davis Trask go side by side at the top of roller coaster as we are on the camera, and that's a scary place to make a move, but Davis Trask makes it work.
Keep your arms and legs inside the vehicle at all times. Scream if you want to go faster. That was a pretty exciting ride through the roller coaster. But in the end, it looks like Davis Trask is successful. Not far ahead of them, Nick Love. Horror first lap, but he's right back in the race behind Will Nonamaker, behind Alex Harrison, looking to make a move, but he's going to have to do it around the outside at turn 1. They're near enough 3 wide, heading into one of the biggest braking zones on the lap. The inside line's where you want to be. There's no grip, and that's where Nick Love got in trouble on lap 1. He holds it on the racing circuit, and he's trying to get around for position here. Will Nonamaker gets back in front of the train.
Davis Trask doesn't hesitate to take advantage of the pick either, and Alex Harrison is all of a sudden looking forlornly at the cars ahead. It's a tricky little rhythm section there. If you get pushed offline, it can do all sorts of bad things to your lap time.
Davis Trask was just about P nowhere in qualifying, 19th in qualifying. Now he's 9th, and he looks like he's just picking them off one at a time. He's seeing them like fresh fruit on the vine.
Yeah, sometimes. And a little bit of contact ahead of him. That's Nick Love and Will Nonamaker. So 2 of them finding a little bit more drama. I didn't get a good look at how that one started. It looked like Will just turned in, and Nick Love tried to back out, but he was already committed. The 2 of them end up going off, and again, South Bend takes a bite out of another victim. And Will carries on, but that car is driving a little bit slow down the back straight. More drama in the middle of the pack. We got Orlando Harrell making a move on Colin Lounsbury now, this time down into roller coaster. And with all these cars out of position after that drama on the first lap, it's it's high action back here in the field.
I'm trying to work out what quite is going on with Orlando Harrell's livery. Like they had to replace one of the fenders off a black Miata there or something, but he's right in this field. You see a couple more drivers reach for pit lane, Colin Lounsbury and Nick Love.
Yeah, the 2 of them had picked up some aero damage and I think decided it was time to get out of the battle pack and get a clean car.
It is a driver's racetrack, but you do have at least 2 long straights with the pit straight and with the run from Oak Tree towards the roller coaster. And if it's flat out from the lower S's all the way up the climbing S's to South Bend, you've really got to think that aero damage or, missing some top speed would really hurt you through there as well. So high average speeds, but still a lot of corners where it's really, really in the driver's hands, real driver's track around here. Davis Trask has picked up 2 more positions when they collided in front of him. He's now 12 positions gained into 7th. It's happening behind where Orlando Harrell seems to be picking up some steam as well. Looking one way, looking the other on the bumper of Alex Harrison. Justin Hall behind the both of them. Almost back to where he qualified in 8th after, a lap 1 that was so dramatic.
Yeah, the difference is that he's 20 seconds off the lead now, unfortunately for him. Ooh, a nice move up the inside there by Alex Harrison, and really kind of showing off the trademark features of this track. You can be a little bit faster than someone in one corner, and a little bit slower in the others because it's so long. And just when you use your advantage right, it's easy to pick off a guy ahead. And Harrison really showing how to make quick work of a driver that doesn't have the same corner speed as you.
Davis Trask in red, Orlando Harrell in white, Justin Hall in green and orange. Not sure that color combination is quite going to catch on as a fashion trend, but yeah, Harrell gets in deep on the first part, parks it in the tightest part of the roller coaster, and then you get to use the downhill to just open it up and pick up your momentum again. And Hogpen, that's a challenge to find the confidence to throw the car in. Always gets light in the middle of the corner and then lands, and you just hope it's going to grip up this time like it did last lap.
Yeah, you're just praying for the right bounce sometimes. Justin Hall making a move up the inside here now on Orlando Harrell, and he executes it nicely, gets it in real deep. He might get 2 for 1 in this corner. He's up the inside of Davis Trask as well. And he's holding that inside line, but it's going to switch back on him, and you don't want to be on the outside of NASCAR. We'll see. Always hard. But you can break a little deeper when you're on the outside, and he makes the move and makes it stick. Davis Trask struggles a little bit offline, and Justin Hall picks up 2 through the first 3 corners.
Wow. Not only do you not see that many passes there, you really don't see that many around the outside, and he carries that speed again at the lower S's, looking to size up Alex Harrison, and he will. Heading to the climbing S's here side by side. You just got to get in front, and he will, up now into 7th place. 23 seconds away from the lead, though. Joshua Soto and Tim Wire are working together relatively well to really lay down some good pace. One driver's just going with them enough. Ian Giebler, you can see back there behind them in 3rd, not losing a massive amount of time. And we always know a lot can happen in the pit stops in these cars and in these races. They need to take a fair bit of fuel. They fuel quite slowly. And then you got to ask yourself or be prepared about how quickly you can change the tires.
Yeah, Tim Wire's the guy you want to be with the draft, on first place and kind of riding around a little bit behind. But Ian Giebler's not doing so bad either with basically no one else around him. He doesn't have to worry about any contact, and he can just kind of focus on hitting his marks and maybe saving a little bit of a fuel if he's being crafty about it.
Drama at the roller coaster. Alex Harrison and Justin Hall both off the track. A little bit more damage on one of those cars now. Justin Hall does it first, and as happens so often when the guy in front of you gets in deep, you just follow them off, and you don't realize that you've braked too late too until they're off the circuit.
Yeah, every single corner around here, it feels like, is blind. And again, I'm going to share with you some knowledge from my documentary watching this morning. Road and Track called it the Verbergring when they came and did their first laps around the resurfaced track, and it kind of lives up to the name with how challenging some of these corners are.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I've been making some horrible comparisons lately. Like on a different broadcast, I recently called Canadian Tire Motorsport Park the Phillip Island of Canada.
I mean, I see it, but also I don't think your North American audience has seen a lot of Phillip Island.
Oh, they should. It's a good track. Here's Jordan Butler and Michael Coates, 4th and 5th. You could do more than shave or brush your hair in the reflection of Michael Coates' car.
Yeah, it's like a sharp razor,
Mm.
Most men might have to come and claim some copyright though on the reflective car program.
And last lap, 0.3 slower than Ian Giebler, who's the next car up the road. But I'm seeing a sense that both of them might want to try to catch Giebler for 3rd if they think they can work together. Again, now 6 seconds between the leader and Ian Giebler, but 4 seconds from Giebler to this group. in 4th. So at the moment, Ian Giebler a little bit closer to falling back in the pack than he is to catching the leaders. Leaders have got a tiny bit of traffic. Does it help that it's the teammate of the driver in 2nd place, Tim Wire, as he goes past Will Nonamaker?
It helped that Will got out of the way, but it didn't make it super easy. It looked like Tim was a little bit unsettled as he hit the braking zone and got it in a little bit deeper than he might have wanted to. If you're Josh Soto, you're thinking, this is my chance for the breakaway after only 8 laps. It's they're so and we see Tim kind of jump the curb on the inside of the snake there. It cost him some momentum up the hill. It's such a nuanced track to drive around that you can't make any mistakes, and Tim looks like he might have. He'll be hoping Josh makes one here into the next braking zone.
He spent 7.5 laps in that slipstream behind Joshua Soto, but now he's going to have to work for it if he's going to stay with the points leader. And did he win last time out in our last endurance race, the 4 Hours of Charlotte?
I'll have to go double check.
I feel like it was him and Jordan Johnson. But these are the kind of things I really should know. And in the heat of this excitement at VIR, I'm not confident, and it slipped my mind a little bit. So now, as much as he wants to run up with Joshua Soto, he's helping his teammate, who he's just lapped, run with him with the slipstream down the back straight. One of the things that can affect your straight line speed in this car is, unlike the modern ND generation global Mazda Cup car, which has just a purely automated sequential gearbox, these are still on the good old-fashioned road car H pattern, and some drivers get good shifts and some don't.
Yeah, and it's easy to make a mistake when you're heel toeing. It's part of the reason that I love these cars so much when they were still sort of the de facto rookie car. Now that they've moved to the NDs, it's a little bit modern for my tastes. But I've gone back and checked the record books, Haynes, and it was Alex Harrison who was the winning or was a member of the winning team at Charlotte.
That's right.
Yeah, Sven Demmel, the Pinkies Out crew.
Correct.
David
I'm probably going to
Martin
get in trouble for forgetting that one then. Okay.
Yeah, they won't like you trying to give their wins away, but an impressive race nonetheless. And we got another enduro race coming up with that $250 prize, $250 Champ Buck prize to the winning team in just a short while here. What's the date on that, Haynes? I'm pulling up my notes here. August 2nd is the day we'll be doing that race. 4-hour endurance race team. August 19th. 4-hour endurance race in the TCR at Mid-Ohio.
So keep an eye on all the socials and forum.champcar.org if you want to gather together some of your teammates for a team endurance race with some great prizes on offer there as well.
Yeah, and always free to race, free to join, and a good time. We had a real exciting one last time out, not settled until the final 30 minutes or so.
Yeah, it was all in the balance with some drama all the way through.
Speaking of drama, Alex Harrison and Bowie Sewin are getting into a little bit of drama here as they head up into Oak Tree. Sewin's had a heck of a race. He's up 11 spots since the start, running 10th currently.
But Alex Harrison takes a wider line through the Oak Tree in the middle of that complex of corners. You're always scared of going out too wide. How many times have we seen a driver just put their outside tires in the grass there, spin around and end up in the wall? But the fastest way is right up against the limits of the circuit to get your momentum, carry your speed onto this long straight uphill. And he does it just right. Alex Harrison goes back into 10th.
Yeah, cleanly executed and leaves a little bit of room on the inside for the just in case. Like to see that. That's good driving from him.
and a bit of love racing excitement. Oh, this isn't going to be exactly what I was just talking about, is it? I feel like it kind of is. Oh, dear.
Yeah, that's some next level commentator's curse. I've never seen that one before, but Nick Love shows the racing line as you go into that corner because you want to miss that first apex and you want to run it out a little bit wide, but you don't want to run it out that wide.
So many cars, you kind of brake on the way into the corner, have to roll off the brake a little bit and just trail it through while you turn, then grab a downshift, da-da-da-da-da. This is going to be a little bit of a ride for Ben Rose at the roller coaster. Already a chunk of damage on that car. It's just in too hot. He misses the first bit of the wall, but it sends him the other way. Downhill. No avoiding that tyre barrier there, unfortunately, for Ben Rose.
Yeah, it's nice that there's these barriers out around the edge
It's
of the
not
track.
far from pit entry, though, is it? It's not far from pit entry.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's a little bit more expensive hitting tires than it is falling into the iRacing abyss as you would otherwise with no barriers.
A couple of the Assailants crew in the background there, oh so clearly. Joining him on pit lane, perhaps unsurprisingly, Nick Love. This is the second place driver of Tim Wire here. And you can see just in the numbers how strong the slipstream can be in these cars around this track, because Tim Wire was absolutely capable of staying glued to Joshua Soto when they were together. But once they broke that 1 second slipstream window, it's now out to almost 5 seconds. Joshua Soto has got the hammer down, building out a little bit of a gap. And the last lap for Tim Wire was quite scruffy, losing time to Ian Giebler in third as well.
Yeah, I'm just going back to see what could have caused that. Not seeing a really obvious mistake, just a slow lap by the looks of things. But when you lose the guy ahead, it can be a little bit hard to keep your head in the game, and I think Tim Wire is suffering from a little bit of that right now.
If only there was a fun musical number set in a high school that could remind you to keep your head in the game. It's Justin Hall passing Orlando Harrell 7th and 8th. There used to be a massive train of cars for this position. Bit by bit by bit, it all spread out. There's a few smaller, littler battles on circuit at the moment. One of them is Hall passing Harrell. Another is Colin Lounsbury and a resurgent Simon Foweather.
Yeah, Foweather's pushing hard here through Hogpen, and he gets a good look at Colin Lounsbury dropping a tire on the exit of Hogpen. That's how hard he's pushing. But there is a plenty long straightaway here. Room to get it wide open and room to get a big draft. So Simon's going to try outside into turn number 1.
And he's got easily 4 miles an hour more, but he's not able to get around the outside there.
Mm-hmm.
Have to take some avoiding action as well. Tough to see from that flat low angle exactly what happened. If Lounsbury got in a little bit hot and abused his privileges on the inside of the corner, or if he was just way better on the brakes and Foweather thought he was going to be able to get around the outside, but he couldn't.
Yeah, it looked like Foweather may have turned in a little bit hard on Lounsbury, but it's tough in the simulator, especially if you're running on one monitor. It can be a little bit tough to judge where the guy is inside, and you kind of just have to trust him to be right on the line that you wish he was, even though he might not be.
I think Simon could get himself some triples if he wanted.
I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt, just because I've bent my right front fender in this Miata on the simulator before doing that.
My understanding is he also knows 1 or 2 things at least about computers too, and he's going to have to find a different way or find a way to execute better to pass Colin Lounsbury for this 14th position. 5 minutes away from that halfway point of the race. And that's about where you expect to see a lot of the pit stops center around, particularly seeing that the tire drop off, the pace drop off compared to cars' last lap compared to their best lap of the race. It might be about, a second or a second and a half at the moment. And that means focusing your pit strategy around the tires rather than the fuel life could be very important.
Yeah. Seeing Colin Lounsbury make a little bit of ground there through Hogpen. This time Simon won't have a shot into the first turn. Lounsbury does a good job of keeping it in tight on the straightaway too, make sure he's not losing any time. Oh, and actually checking back in with Justin Hall and Orlando Harrell. Justin's gotten it a little bit wrong on the exit of South Bend. Narrowly keeps it on track through Oak Tree. Well executed in the end, but he had all 4 tires off on the exit of South Bend there for a second, and I thought he was going to go spinning off into the abyss, as so often happens out there. The two of them, though, are catching Heath Threm ahead. Heath has had a pretty solid race. We haven't seen Heath out a whole bunch yet. This is still pretty early days for him, but he's doing pretty well, up 6 spots and running in 6th place.
The pit lane is a busy, busy place right now. The race leader, Joshua Soto, comes in. Tim Wire from 2nd follows him. Ian Giebler from 3rd follows him. But Jordan Butler from 4th place carries on into the lead of the race. He's managed to save an extra lap of fuel, perhaps. Michael Coates behind, also on the pit lane. So we're expecting to see more than we don't. Let's keep an eye on those tyres because that will be critical for the pace in the back half of the race.
Yeah, it is looking like 4 tires is a possibility, given that they fill this car up with a combination of fuel jugs and pipettes. Quite a long stop for these things. Maybe doing their simulation of the 5-minute rule, but that's actually interesting to see Tim Wire pulling away right at the same time as Josh Soto. So I think Tim Wire's fuel saving in the early part of this stint has gone a long way. A lot more cars on the pit lane
together, but we always saw Joshua Soto in front and Tim Wire following him.
Yeah, you'll notice in the background of the pit lane, Justin Hall, Michael Coates, Heath Threm, Davis Trask all hit the lane, and Andrew Lanning's actually going to pass all of them on the front straightaway. So that early stop for Lanning, maybe not quite as crippling as it seemed at first.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the pit stop time for Lanning when he stopped on lap 1, and he definitely took enough fuel as well to get himself through this one. So he might have had just a couple of laps to keep his head down, stay away from the mess that was happening around 7th place in the near 10-way fight that was happening there. So he is back out on track in, I see it as 9th at the moment, but he'll definitely pick up a couple more potentially when Mark Kruger, for example, pits and is within his pit window in front. Cold tyres, new tyres on the outlap, and there's been a bit of drama here as well. Where does this all start for Simon Foweather? He's in behind Colin Lounsbury, and he just goes out a tiny bit wide, gets the smallest kiss on the grass. I was at the snack shop just there one time, and I saw a BMW run off track in that same corner.
He ran off track and then rejoined, and then he got another tag from Ben Rose on the next corner that put him into the wall again. So double trouble for Simon Foweather, and that's really going to hurt Simon Foweather there. We got another one written off right behind him. John McManus, I saw limping around the track with a blown motor. Easy to do with these H-pattern gearboxes. He did it on his way into the first turn. So kind of impressed that he managed to limp it around the whole lap, but well executed. And luckily in iRacing, we don't have oil downs to account for.
Thank goodness. Now, with the last of the pit stops, Joshua Soto goes back into the race lead from Ian Giebler and Jordan Butler, if I see it correct. So for Wire, what's gone on for him?
He's back on the pit lane. I think in his haste to exit, he's accumulated another.
Oh, he has a penalty.
Yeah, and that's so heartbreaking. He had done a really good job fuel saving, and it looked like he was going to be in the race with Soto, but unfortunately for him, that dream's gone.
These cars, this generation of them, are much, much closer to the modified road car than you kind of expect from customer racing cars like GT4s and TCRs and all of that these days, both in that gearbox where they've got the road H pattern gearbox rather than a sequential gearbox, but also no pit lane speed limiter like you get out of some of the newer generation cars, like for example the Toyota GR86 and some others. So it is quite easy to speed on pit lane if you're really pushing up against that limit. But also, I guess if you're just too keen at pit exit as well.
Yeah, well, and it wouldn't be the first time that anyone, myself included, hits the gas on pit lane exit, mashes the pit lane speed limiter button a few times, and then it doesn't engage because this car doesn't have one, and gets themselves in trouble.
I'm sure you've gotten yourself in trouble many different times in many different ways. So with those pit stops done, some big winners look like Colin Lounsbury, who's now 5th, having gained 10 spots over the race total.
Drama for Alex Harrison in South Bend. He gets it a little bit wrong, gets the thing drifting on the way in, and drifts all the way out. Need to throttle out. Unfortunately, he will drift it, only barely taps the tire wall. I think he'll get away with that one with only a little bit of lost time and a little bit of bruised pride. Meanwhile, Josh Soto's putting quick ones down at the front of the field.
He likes those new tires, that's for sure. The racetrack has cooled off a little bit since the start of the race. It's now 6:45 in the evening in session. He's using the track and all of it. How hot's that grass? We talked about how hot the racetrack is. So he's got those new tires. He might be just a little... No, he shouldn't be that much lighter on fuel now than he was at the start of the race. Everyone pitted before the halfway point, and they need fuel to get from before the halfway point to the end. But the new tires in these track conditions, they are favouring him well. His lead almost out to 10 seconds. Ian Giebler's patience has been rewarded with 2nd place, and Jordan Butler's with 3rd.
Yeah.
Butler was right with Michael Coates. So what's happened to Coates, did we see?
I saw Coates come out of the pit lane and then pull off to the side of the track and reset his car and exit the sim. So I was not sure at the time what the reason was, and I haven't heard anything yet, but maybe incorrect fuel, something else. Either way, he jumped out of the car and jumped out of the session. So no Coates. And unfortunately for him, that may not be enough to hit the 50% threshold required for the $150 Champ Car or Champ Buck draw that's going on after today's race on the next live Champ Car Endurance Series coverage.
Yeah, he won't be scored a race finisher with just 12 laps. He talks about Lounsbury's position, but he's got one of the quicker pit stops I've seen. He's one of the drivers. I didn't check to see if they took new tires. Justin Hall, I'm quite confident did. Hall had a longer stop, but he's looking very quick now as they approach the roller coaster.
Yeah, it's a big draft, and Justin Hall, last of the late breakers, manages to get one done on roller coaster there.
Next car for position ahead of them would be Andrew Lanning in 4th, and we know his tyres not quite so great because he stopped at the end of lap 1, fueled it, and he'll get all the way to the end, but it's not the optimal tyre strategy. Even if we'll get him to the end on just the one stop, you're only going to need to pull half a second a lap out of him from here to the end to catch him and maybe pass him. And I think we've seen those new tyres are worth more than that, at least initially, for a couple laps.
Yeah, last time by, Justin Hall ran a 2:11.0, and this time by, Andrew Lanning ran a 2:12.3. So that's plenty of difference if Lanning doesn't find a little bit of pace or Justin doesn't lose a little bit. Heath Threm's holding off Orlando Harrell right now in a battle for 7th. 7th place is everyone's favorite spot to fight over today, eh?
It seems like it. It seems like it. Now, I think I have a good muscle memory for these things. If I had said Heath Threm at any point in my life before today, I think I would remember. It seems like we've got a couple of new drivers out there as well. John McManus, I think, has only done a couple of races with us. Haven't seen a whole lot of Ben Rose either. We haven't seen Michael Coates in this championship before, but you and I have seen him before.
Yeah, he's on our Thursday night coverage that we do with the Spec 5 series. Another great place to go racing if paddle shifted MX5s are more your flavor. A little bit more highly regulated than our series, I'll say.
Threm and Herald pitted one lap apart, but they both had basically the same stop time. When it comes to communicating with your iRacing crew what you want them to do in the pit lane, I think on this car you can only be as precise as half a gallon or so. So you're either saying put 7 in, put 7.5, put 8 in, and that leads to some pit stops that look very similar one car to the next if both drivers said, yeah, I think it's going to take 8 gallons to get to the end. I think we need to add 8. Takes the time to add 8 gallons.
Mm-hmm. And that's at least 2 jugs, so they're going to be running for a while with those. I'm really enjoying Heath's Cheeto and DC livery. It's real good one.
Every 15-year-old's dream in 2010. Cheetos, some new skate shoes, and a can of Monster Energy. I think that's what it's got to be a tribute to. It is one of these things we see as we sort of rotate through all the different cars in the schedule for ChampCar iRacing series. Is some people don't have a prepared paint scheme for every single car, and we do get a look at what's popular on trading paints. I think that was definitely true of the Toyota GR86 as well. Memory serves, we had some people in the same livery that weren't teammates. They just both saw it on trading paints and went, "Oh, that looks cool."
Yeah, you got to remember, if it flies, it spies. That's one of the most popular
Correct.
paints.
Yes, that is one of the most popular GR86 paints on trading paints at the moment. The birds aren't real livery. Joshua Soto's race lead's out past 10 seconds now on Giebler. Giebler's race pace looking decent within a couple tenths of the race leader. Jordan Butler and everyone else back in 2-minute 12s, 2-minute 13s.
Yeah, there's just a little extra gear that Soto seems to have. We've seen him do this before. Honestly, even during our 4-hour endurance race in the middle stint, it looked like that car was going to be the car to beat, and then strategy and a little bit of inconsistency ended up being the difference. Now we're checking back in. Orlando Harrell's found his way around Heath Threm into the roller coaster. Very nicely executed. And that position will be settled for a moment here.
Got in just a tiny bit hot, but he made it work.
Yeah. And luckily for us, the battle between Alex Harrison is starting to heat up with Tim Wire over 10th place, as Harrison did a pretty awesome little dive bomb on Ben Rose that time by to make sure that he would have the draft on Tim Wire going on the front straight this time.
These guys are catching Mark Kruger as well, and I wonder if Kruger took no tires 2 laps in a row in the 2-minute 14s, while it's 2-minute 12s for Wire and Harrison. They are reeling him in and some.
Yeah, I could believe that. Pretty quick stop there from Kruger, and even though he's got the established, or sorry, the Mark, what's that say? Kruger tuned racing on the front. Nothing you can do to tune this NC Miata, unfortunately for him.
He's 9th at the moment. Then you see 10th, and 11th. Ben Rose a lap down immediately behind them. Is not done, will not be done for Orlando Herald and Heath Threm.
Yeah. And even with their battling, they actually they almost managed to take, they did manage to take a little bit of time out of Colin Lounsbury last time by as well. So it's closing up towards the end of this race, about 20 minutes remaining. Orlando gets a better run off of Hogpen this time, so I think he'll be safe. And looked like Alan Wells went for a bit of a ride as he was letting by some teammates. I think Bill Salen was trying to get by. Might be wrong about that. Oh, Wells got a little bit of help. That's what we're seeing on the replay here. And I'm not sure.
Being lapped by Andrew Lanning there, I think it is. Because then the next car past, there's Justin Hall there. And then he's now behind his other teammate, Bill Salen. Yeah,
always tough around here. It's like we said at the top, it's such a challenging track, and in some places such a one-line track that it could be hard to make a clean move. But that was kind of in the middle of the back straight, so I'm not sure exactly what the misjudgment was there. Keith Threm closing up.
Boston server, so no one's got a ping greater than 100 milliseconds in this race.
Yeah, and no international entries today, so don't think we can blame it on that, unfortunately. Harold got a decent run, but Threm really closed up under braking. He might have a chance at a move here on the back half. Won't be quite close enough to go for it, but does cause Orlando to go a little bit deep under braking with the pressure he was putting on. Oh, and we're seeing
Mark Kruger. Oh, he was further up the road. We were talking about the rate he was getting caught at, and did he have, the right tires? And this is going to be an interesting case. It's just a little too much speed into Oak Tree. In the end, it drops him back behind Alex Harrison, Tim Wire, Orlando Herald, Heath Threm.
And Orlando Herald gets it wrong again into turn number 1. I think those tires might be finding the end of their life for Orlando Herald, because he's missed a few corners now in a row. Heath Threm drives by easily. And the two of them are going to have to kind of sort things out here quickly, because they're coming up on a battle between Alan Wells and Bill Salen, who are both a lap down. So they'll be hoping that those guys stay with single file as they try to quickly dispatch of them.
Yeah, if you've spent all of the stint rotating the car by cranking more steering in it rather than, trailing the brake a little bit, trying to use the throttle to move the weight around, you can just wear off those front tires so quickly. You lean on them too much too early in the stint, and then you feel like you're captaining a little bit of a yacht in the back half of the stints in this car. That's always kind of been one of its characteristics. And it shows who preserves the tires early on.
Absolutely. Wow. And Heath Threm jumps the perfect amount of curb and gets a heck of a run on Alan Wells. And he comes back over quickly, hoping to get a draft from Bill Salen ahead. And I think, importantly, hoping to avoid giving a draft to Orlando Herald for as long as possible, too.
They drop in line on the back straight, now behind Bill Salen, heading towards the roller coaster. One of those corners where it really, you see who's brave enough to just really throw it through there, and Bill Salem lets them around the outside before that battle higher up gets past them and towards the hog pen. Now he's side by side with his own teammate. Alan Wells will also get down the inside of the hog pen on Bill Salem.
And it's fun to see. We're seeing, two cars on the lead lap and two cars a lap down having a good time battling each other. There's always someone to race with in the ChampCar iRacing Sprint Series, so it's fun to see it happening. While we were watching that battle, we just saw Davis Trask get overtaken by Will Nonamaker, and then what else did I just see flipping on the timing screen? I've lost it. But yeah, Davis Trask lost the spot to Will Nonamaker going into roller coaster last time by, but he's managed to stay right on the bumper. And if he gets a good run out of hog pen here, he could be a factor down the front straight into one.
The 12th and 13th at the moment. Hot Dog versus Lightning McQueen.
It's a heck of a battle. Actually looked like Trask had to pedal a little bit there as Will kind of closed the door on that kink on the front straight. Not close enough
through turn one. A couple bumps out there in some places.
Yeah, and we'll see if either one of them really has kind of a decisive advantage on the next set of corners. Looks like Will's doing NASCAR a little bit better. Left hook. Trask runs a little bit wide, slides it at the apex. And through Snake, you'd have to give the edge to Will through the slow stuff.
Again, drivers who pitted a lap apart here, very similar. Pit stop times are around about 35 seconds. A lot of the field look like they picked up pit stop times of about 35 seconds. HJBC.live will tell you. It's the quick stops that are kind of the outliers there, closer to 30 seconds for Jordan Butler and Colin Lounsbury and Alex Harrison and Mark Kruger.
Oh, and things are getting tight here between Harrell and Threm, but I think Harrell it's pretty clear that Harrell is lifting pretty big. I'm not sure if it's for fuel saving or because he's, starting to time things out for the end of the race, getting down to 12 minutes to go now. And these two are, decidedly locked in a battle for 7th place.
They are, and you see that, a big difference in where the brake lights are on. Heath Threm just rolling a bit more of the brake between the corners to rotate the car, while Harrell maybe came in a little bit slower and he's off the brake as it's turning. And that's a difference in where the weight of the car is sitting on the tires, which tires are wearing or working harder or sliding. I think using less steering angle but more brake pedal to rotate the car is a little nicer on the front tires across the stint, and you'll keep your balance a little more neutral rather than it becoming, yacht without a bow thruster.
Mm-hmm. Harrell looking pretty comfortable though, and as I say that, pushes a little bit wide, but the run he gets off the corner here is a big difference. And yeah, he's actually going to get a good side draft here, and the momentum's going to be enough just to take him out ahead of Threm down the back straight.
I think Threm now almost takes the opportunity to roll out behind and sit in Harrell's slipstream for the moment. They're going to have 5 more laps to go, and your race leader has already taken that. He's sort of down way past turn 1.
Yeah, coming up through the Snake right now with Ian Giebler not infinitely far behind, but 14 seconds back. And then another 14 seconds back, we got Jordan Butler. So real impressive pace here still from Josh Soto, running 2:11 1s while the rest of the field's running 2:12 2s. This pace is what we've kind of come to expect from Soto. He's really, really quick in a car, and he's making his case for why he ought to win that $1,500 Champ Buck prize at the end of the season. And of course, if you're feeling like you might have a swing at that, well, you're always welcome to come out. Our next season will presumably start in the new year, but we've had more than a few people show up thinking they're the hot shoe, and find out that maybe they aren't. There's some pretty quick swim racers out there, and they tend to be pretty quick real drivers too. Alex Albert's done a good job with a couple of his championship wins.
A race winner at this very place.
Yeah.
It's back with Threm and Herald, or Herald and Threm as it sits at the moment. Tim Wyatt, we know he's been quick. He's been through the pit lane twice with that penalty, and I can see him in the background of shot at times, and he's going quicker than those guys in front. So what happens here? He might just be able to pick up a little more from his race and catch these drivers if they start to slow each other up or have some problems. They both use the track and then the curbing and then the AstroTurf and then the turf on the exit of Oak Tree there. Not the perfect way to run off that corner. Using a little bit of the curb sure is. You see that all the time. But they got just a little further out than that. We miss you, Oak Tree, gone but not forgotten.
I was just say it's classic. The grass on the outside of that curb kept getting killed, so they decided to pave it, and then the drivers went a little bit wider and started killing the grass on the outside of that curb.
It genuinely is a slippery slope.
Yeah, and the runoff there is tricky because you're kind of off camber on the entry. And we're seeing what looks to be twilight ticking in here. And the only criticism I'd have of the sim today is that iRacing's weather has been very optimistic. 81 Fahrenheit on the track, 74 in the air. And I seem to recall being here around this time of year and being in some variety of tropical jungle with how sweaty it was all the time.
Yeah, it's the heat and the humidity that gets you. It can be like that this time of year around here.
I'll get word from my producers that it's a mild 88 in the air today.
Very nice. So on board once again, Heath Threm. There's just 1 second now to Orlando Herald. Has he been saving and now found some grip and some pace to pull away here? Is it going to leave Heath Threm vulnerable to Tim Wyatt catching him? We've got sort of 5 more laps to go for where these guys are sitting. About to be 4 to go for the leader, who's quite a ways ahead of Herald and Threm. So it means Tim Wyatt is going to need to find more like 2 seconds a lap, but I guess you can. If Threm's going to make mistakes like that, running off the wide off of the Oak Tree, going to cost himself about a second with something like that. Plus, he's Tim Wyer's got maybe about a second a lap of raw underlying pace as well on Heath Threm when they're tidy laps.
Well, and I recall this car being one that's not in circulation on the service, doesn't get as many updates as the other ones do, but I recall this tire model being one that liked having a few cool down laps to help the tires out if you're pushing too hard. So it could very well be that Harold got back in the slipstream and took her easy for a few laps, and that was enough to give him some of the pace that he needed. Luckily for us, as that battle's spread out, I'm seeing the battle between Will Nonemaker and Davis Trask for 12th and 13th starting to get a little bit closer. No, not those red cars. There you go. These red cars coming down the back straight into roller coaster.
Trask quicker last lap as well.
Yeah. Has been finding a little bit to try and make up some ground. You do have
Team
to wonder.
Salem have driven lots of interesting cars across the championships, both in IMSA in Daytona prototypes, and then some Porsches, some other stuff as well.
Yeah, none quite as slow as this one, I'd have to imagine. But maybe this one makes up for it in fun. Trask looking a little threatening into turn number 1. He's really seems to have found some pace here.
That's one of the things about this car is with ABS, you get tempted to throw it so deep into those corners, but when the ABS is functioning, the car will stop, but it won't turn. So there's a big art to how you get off the brake and turn into the corner there. I think Trask seems to have it just about nailed. He came in there with so much speed and then had no troubles rotating it right at the point of the apex and coming off the corner about a car length behind Will Nonamaker and then trying to follow him. But Nonamaker seems to be decent off the corners, and I wonder if it is a difference in gear shifting.
Could very well be. It's there's definitely an art to getting it right in these cars. Not quite the Mustang where there's like a 200 RPM range where it's like perfect, but in these ones there's definitely a difference if you're shifting a little bit late or a little bit early. And, always a factor if someone's using the auto clutch around here. Every time you shift with the auto clutch, you're going to lose a half a tenth or a tenth. So that could be a factor as well. So Trask, after being on the bumper in turn 1, is now 5-6 car lengths back, and we're going to check back in on Andrew Landing and Justin Hall, as Justin Hall's managed to do a really good job of
clawing back. He's managed to get the grass and run off at the lower S's, and he was holding on so bravely with those older tyres from the very, very early pit stop. But finally, maybe they start to cry enough here. Justin Hall is going to go past him, carry more speed up the hill at these S's, and Hall gets up into 4th place.
We'll see if Landing lets that one stand, but that was that was one of those classic mistakes. He must be tuned into the broadcast, heard us talking about him on the radio, and then just all of a sudden wakes up and realizes there's a competitor in his mirror. Justin Hall so deep into Oak Tree, but really helps him get that run on the exit. Landing does a good job of replicating it though by jumping the curb.
So now Hall leads onto the back straight, Landing with the opportunity now to try to settle the nerves, settle the tires, and follow him along. Joshua Soto was a bit touch and go with the pace they were doing, but I think has taken the white flag. See, I don't know, you don't know, but I think ATVO knows, and it's not saying at the moment. It was so touch and go because he's doing 2-minute 11s, and that's about how much time was left on the clock when he crossed the line.
I can see a white flag flying on the front stretch, so I'm thinking that it's a white flag this time by, and we'll watch Soto and see what he does when he gets to the line. But he's run a heck of a race, clean from the start, manages to avoid all the drama off the line, and 20 seconds up the road. This is, frankly looking like a lot of recent F1 races at this point.
He didn't execute the fastest pit stop, but he executed a clean one, and that helps him in the battle against Tim Wire, against Ian Giebler. Devin, I'm pretty confident that white flag, if it's being waved now, it will change to a checkered flag when Joshua Soto approaches it. Couple of late last-minute pit stops here, and one of them is Colin Lounsbury, so he clearly didn't take enough fuel. He needs to add a little bit more here. And Tim Wire is going to shoot past him for another late position.
Got to get all those points you can when it goes a little bit wrong.
At the roller coaster for what we think will be the last time. 20 seconds and counting down on the clock. It will be close. It will be touch and go. But if ATVO thinks it's the white flag, then we know he'll be coming to the checkered, coming out of Hogpen, looking to the start-finish line. Virginia International Raceway, Joshua Soto, the championship leader, the pole sitter in a very, very competitive grid. And he will be the race winner again in round 8 at VIR.
Rounding Hogpen for the final time, Ian Giebler wraps up a very quiet race to find himself in second place. Ran alone in the first stint, watched Tim Wire fly off the track in the second, fly down the pit lane in the second, and he takes second place himself. Jordan Butler himself, too, is coming onto the pit straight in third, and he'll be wrapping up the final spot on the podium.
Jordan Butler trio, if you will. You shouldn't, but you might. A couple more battles to be settled on the way to the checkered flag. Justin Hall versus Andrew Lanning for fourth. Tim Wire versus Colin Lounsbury has just kicked off on this final lap after Lounsbury's late stop in the battle for eighth. And the teammates, Alan Wells versus Bill Salen for 15th and 16th. One lap down there as well. Hall and Lanning crossed the line in that order. Wire, is he vulnerable to a late charge from Andrew Lanning? Lanning will have put a little bit more fuel in that car, but taken no tyres, and it will not be behaving how it was just a lap before. It won't give him confidence into the braking zone at the roller coaster to try to take a spot away from the late resurgent Tim Wire. Wells and Salen are pretty close on track to that as well. You suspect, unless he's going to cough and run out of fuel, that Wire can hold on to this to the start-finish line. The reconfiguration of this circuit has moved the checkered flag and the timing line further around, and Wire will cough. He will run out of fuel and lose a spot to Colin Lounsbury in the final feat of a 1 hour race.
Oh, that's heartbreak at the line for him. We see a couple more cars crossing the line. Now Alex Harrison makes his way through for 10th. Mark Kruger for 11th. Will Nonamaker coming out of Hogpen now in 12th place. And the final car on the lead lap, after battling with Will for a bit and suffering a little bit of drama here in the final laps, Davis Trask will be rolling his wounded car through that checkered flag here shortly.
That much damage is not ka-chow, but we're going to have a look at it.
Yeah, it looks like he just gets it a little bit wrong on the exit, and as soon as you slide off of the outside there, it's so cambered that it's really hard to get it back, and he does, but he hits the inside barrier.
And the track drops away massively off the pavement as well, and that half helped to loop him around. Everyone's crossed the checkered flag. This is our results. Joshua Socho, Ian Giebler, Jordan Butler, Justin Hall, Andrew Lanning, Orlando Harrell, Heath Thurham, Colin Lounsbury, Tim Wire, and Alex Harrison. It's the top 10. Mark Kruger, Will Nonamaker, Davis Trask, Bo Sewin, Alan Wells, Bill Salen, Ben Rose, Simon Foweather, Michael Coates, and John McManus. Now, the leader completed 27 laps, so to be a classified finisher, you've got to do 14, and Simon Foweather and Michael Coates are unfortunately 2 laps short of that. John McManus 3 laps short of that. Retirements, Nick Love, Charles Kowalczyk, Dakota Knapp, and David Palermo didn't take the race start. We got a whole dose of action out of the NC Generation Miatas at Virginia International Raceway. And hopefully, we're going to be able to speak to some of our podium sitters. Hell, I think we can grab the whole podium. I'm always in favor of going 3, 2, 1. So that's what we're going to do. Jordan Butler, 3rd place, is going to join us now from 9th on the grid. You finish on the podium. Not a bad hour.
Yeah, thank you very much. It got kind of crazy there in lap 1, and I got through it without any damage, and running 5th most of the race. And then I guess some guys made some mistakes in the pit stops, and here I am on the podium.
In the world of ChampCar, I think about half of the members are shameless card-carrying Mazda fanboys. The other half are godless heathens. I know what camp you fall into. How do you find the NC Generation?
It's a pretty easy car to get accustomed to in here. Not a huge fan in person, but in the game, in iRacing, it's not so bad. I got up to speed pretty quick. Not leader's pace, but good enough.
And you've got some teammates that are also into sim racing. Any of them here tonight? Any of them that you think we're going to see for some future rounds?
So John Wilding, my good buddy, drives for the Level 1 racing team. which I'm repping for right now. Our livery's on the car. He's not going to be able to make it probably the whole rest of the season. He's going through some pretty tough stuff right now, and it's actually kind of dedicated to him. He can't be here. I'm sure he's watching, but it goes out to John Wilding here because he won't be racing with us for a while, but hopefully we see him back pretty soon.
Yep. Good to hear from you. Congratulations on that podium, and go well and give our best wishes.
Thank you very much. See you around.
Third place finisher Jordan Butler just there. Second place finisher Ian Giebler has joined us and joins Devin Peters.
Ian, it looked like one of the quieter races outside of the first lap that I've seen you run in our series.
Yeah, that first turn was pretty exciting, and Tim and Joshua kind of ran away from there, and I was just out of their draft, unfortunately. So I just ran laps, and Tim and I put a lot of hours in for this race. We were pretty excited. We felt we had good pace. We had practiced outside. Feel really bad for him. He ended up speeding in pits, if you guys saw that, which took him out of contention. But I told him I'd say his name in the interview.
Well, you got plenty of time on the broadcast too. He was looking like one who was going to challenge up at the front, but it ended up being you putting that 404 car right up there.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks to my wife for putting the kids to bed tonight. And thanks to Summit Racing I bought my rig from them. So yeah, good time.
Nice. Well, I was going to say you're another one of those Miata guys. So how's the NC compared to your NB?
Oh man, I don't even know if I could really compare them. My sister has an NC, and I've autocrossed them both back to back, and my MB's pretty prepped, and I put faster times down in her NC. It's pretty wild what they did between the generations in that 2-liter engine.
Well, I'm shocked to hear someone admit the NC does anything well.
Oh, it's ugly as hell compared to my car, but it's definitely quicker.
Well, cheers to you and cheers to a good race.
Hey, thanks for putting this on, guys. That was fun.
And as we work our way up the podium, click in the right places to grab our race winner, Josh Soto. You're making a habit of this in 2023 in the ChampCar iRacing series.
Oh, yeah. Trying to do the best that I can.
So you qualify on pole, you make a good start, but for the entirety of that first stint, it seems like, Tim Wire has his nose right to your bumper in a car that has a very strong slipstream.
Yeah. This track is very draft heavy, especially with these cars. So yeah, the main thing is just try to break the draft, and we ended up coming across some lap traffic, and I was able to get like a little bit of a draft help from the car ahead, and eventually I was able to get a little bit of a gap, and that ultimately helped me to win this race.
Big fuel drop in this one. Almost everyone we saw taking 4 tires. It seems like, the tires start cold and very slippery. They get very grippy, then they fall off, and then you're into the next stint again with a totally different car balance.
Oh yeah. I was definitely trying to make sure that I took enough fuel. And sometimes my fuel calculator ends up not calculating the right amount of fuel, so I made sure to get like a lot. And definitely I take both tires because those gets you about like 2 seconds on this track because of how much tire wear you get on this track.
Now, I don't count chickens before they hatch, but my best understanding is you're a Florida native. ChampCar Endurance Series goes to a couple tracks in Florida. Which one would be closest to you?
Definitely Sebring. Yeah. Sebring, and then Homestead. Homestead, Miami.
Very, very interesting. Congratulations go to you once again, Josh. A great drive with the pace, the consistency, the just tidy pit stop strategy. You bag another win in 2023.
All right, thank you.
There we go, Devon. Our podium from round 8 of this series from VIR. Any takeaways before we look forward to the future races in the ChampCar iRacing series?
Well, Soto's putting up a record that's going to be hard to beat. I got to think that he's the favorite for the championship with only 4 races to go. But I got to say that things are still wide open in the Enduro Series, so I'm really looking forward to that August 19th race at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course in the TCR. And it's, being an Enduro race, it's an opportunity for anyone to take the win with some good strategy, especially with the possibility of full course cautions. It ought to be a good time.
So go to forum.champcar.org, and right up the top, pinned, is the schedule and all of the information you need to know about the championship, how to join the league on iRacing, how to find the Discord server, which is pretty active. Lots of other races you can chat with there, both real life wheel-to-wheel racers in the ChampCar Endurance Series who love to get together on the sim, and also plenty of sim racers who are thinking about putting their talent elsewhere into some full metal in the ChampCar Endurance Series. So just a great place to bounce ideas, chat with like-minded people, and stay up to date with what's happening in the ChampCar iRacing Series. VIR, our congratulations go to the race winner, Joshua Soto, and we'll see you for more racing in a couple of weeks' time. Been David Haynes with Michael Derby and Devon Peters. We'll see you around. Mark August 19th for the Enduro at Mid-Ohio in your calendar. See you then.